This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is the show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love. As you know, as a reminder, I'm here to help you understand your dreams. So if you have a dream that's got you stumped, email me at debbie@dreampowerradio.com. I can help you interpret your dream or answer any general questions you may have about dreams. So you can send your emails to debbie@dreampowerradio.com. As all of you who've been listening to this show know, there are many methods and techniques we can use to transform our lives. Can these also be used to transform our businesses? My guest today, John Murphy, believes so. John is a leading business consultant who has helped revolutionize the workings of some of the world's most famous companies. He's trained thousands of people in operational excellence and organizational development. And he's shared his knowledge in 20 books and dozens of articles. We're going to be talking with him now about his new book, Miracle Minded Manager. John, welcome to Dream Power Radio.
Thanks, Debbie. It's so good to be here.
Okay, John, your book, you take the principles of the Course of Miracles and apply them to the business world. For those who are unfamiliar with it, could you explain what the Course of Miracles is and how you discovered it?
I'd love to, Debbie. Yeah, I discovered it basically because a lot of the people I was reading, this is 10, 15, even 20 years ago, people like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle and even Marianne Williamson. I was intrigued. Dr. David Hawkins was probably the biggest influence on me, the late David Hawkins. And they all were referencing this A Course in Miracles, ACIM. And I was curious, like, what is that? I didn't know. So one day I came home from a long road trip, and there in a big stack of mail was an invitation to take A Course in Miracles. So I thought, well, that's no coincidence. So I investigated in it further and discovered that it was actually a channeling in the 1970s by a woman named Dr. Helen Schuckman. Helen was a professor of psychology, medical psychology at Columbia University at the time. And essentially she started to hear this voice. It was a channeling, if you will. And with the help of a colleague, Dr. Bill Thetford, the two of them over a 7-year period put these teachings, these channelings into words, which became a book, a textbook, and also a teacher's manual. And the workbook is 365 lessons over the course of a year, one lesson per day. And it's essentially believed to be by millions of people today, a direct channeling of Jesus. And I found it truly intriguing. So I enrolled, I took the course, and it's something you can take it online on YouTube for free. It's well known around the world, and it had a profound impact on my life. And all of a sudden I could really see where some of the teachings of Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, people like that, Wayne Dyer, were coming from. And so I began to practice it. It just became part of my life, and I began to practice it in my consulting practice. I integrated it into everything. That's how it works, into my role as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son. And it just then came to me years later to integrate it into a business story. So how would an executive or a manager apply some of these teachings in the business world today? Because it's essentially a teaching about how to transcend the ego thought system, that fear-based, dualistic, human nature thought system that we all know, to a very deep, spiritual, awakened perspective, where you're not afraid, you're not stressed out, you're not anxious. You embrace the holy instant, the eternal now as you go through the day. And it had, like I said, a profound effect on me. So when I learned about it and began to integrate it into my practice, it had an incredibly positive impact on my performance as a consultant and the impact I had with my clients in multiple countries around the world, and in the workshops I was teaching, and in the events, the process improvement events that I was facilitating, and the speeches that I was giving, everything, and my writing. So I began to incorporate it into my writing. So the Miracle Minded Manager, my latest work, is directly integrates it into the life. It's a story. It's actually a sequel to a book I wrote 25 years ago. And the book 25 years ago, which got wonderful endorsements from military generals and best-selling authors, Ken Blanchard, for example, the 1 Minute Manager, and Rich DeVos, the co-founder of Amway, and a very successful businessman and philanthropist, and people like that. That was the book called Agent of Change, and it was a story about a man who sought the help of a consultant to help him change his corporate culture, which is something I've been doing for 31 years now as a consultant. But this sequel to that book, it's not a 25-year sequel, it's a 3-year period from story to story. But now this man that's struggling, his name's Jack McDonald, he comes back to the same consultant and he says, you know what, you helped me change my corporate culture, and I've been very successful as a result of that. He's been promoted, in fact. Now can you help me change me? Can you help me get over the stress that I'm feeling, and some of the emotional weight that I feel, and some of the conflict that I have in my life? He's got conflict with his father and with his brother, and some of these very common things that we all experience or know somebody who is experiencing, even health issues. So the Miracle Minded Manager is a sequel to this book I wrote a long time ago. It's a touching story. It's actually also a tribute to women, because what you learn in the story is that there are some very wise and sage women behind the men characters, and it's truly a tribute to women as well.
Oh, isn't that always the truth? There's so much that you just said that I just want to take a little bit of time to unpack it all. And the first thing I want to say is that I was really struck by the fact that you did write it in the form of a story, and I thought it made the principles that you were talking about in the book a lot easier to understand. Is that why you wrote it as a story?
I did, because the book is in no way any kind of a competition with a book that's already written, which is A Course in Miracles. You don't need another book on that. The original book is a masterpiece. So, but what people struggle with is, how do I learn from that original text and the original workbook? How do I integrate that into a very common life challenging situation? So the idea was not to compete in any way with A Course in Miracles, but to complement it, to say, look, here's an example, an illustration, an opportunity for you, the reader, to listen in and observe and witness a person going through this transformation and struggling with it. It can be a struggle for people, because it really requires that we let go of the ego, of this fear-based dualistic way that we're trained to think: right, wrong, good, bad, us, them, win, lose. Everything is about duality. So when we transcend that to the point where we're all connected, we're not separate beings, we're all connected in an energetic way. And it's about true forgiveness. For example, the ego sees forgiveness as, I was right, you were wrong, but I forgive you. That's really just another form of condemnation. True forgiveness is like, it's like it never happened. Okay, it's a true forgiveness. And I think one of the most important things for people to learn and to embrace is that in forgiving others, we're forgiving ourselves. We're setting ourselves free. That's one of the major themes and lessons in A Course in Miracles. The ego has a different definition for love, too. The ego's definition of love is that it's something we fall in and out of. It's something we give and take away. There's a duality to it. A Course in Miracles says there's no duality to love. Love is eternal. Love is sacred. It's where we came from. It's a form of energy. It's what gives us life. It's the only thing that really matters, is that connectedness that we all have. And it isn't something we give and take away. It's totally unconditional. It's totally forgiving. And when we actually embrace that, whether it's in business or it's at home, it's the family, it's in school, wherever it is we are, and we embrace true forgiveness, and we learn to get in spirit, which means fearless. The spirit is no fear. When we're inspired and in spirit, wow, life is just takes on a whole new meaning. And it's extremely powerful then in working with others because they feel it. It's an energy. It's like that person that lights up the room. It's a feeling. Wow, there's just something different about this consultant or this teacher, this professor, this person. And it's that inspiration, that heartfelt passion, that compassion that we just embody and carry with us everywhere we go.
Yeah, that is so, so true. One of the main things that you talk about in this book is also stress. And what I found interesting was that you didn't talk about reducing stress, which is what most people talk about, but you talked about eliminating it altogether. So how do you eliminate stress?
Well, you have to get to the root cause. And I like to remind people that it doesn't do a whole lot of good in the long run to solve problems inside a box when it's the box that's the problem. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good to manage stress when we can eliminate it. We can delete it. But to delete it and eliminate it rather than manage it, think about all the strategies we have to manage stress. Go to the gym, get on the treadmill, take a yoga class, learn to meditate, and even, or go get yourself a beer or a glass of wine or something like that, decompress a little bit. We have all these management strategies, but very little about deletion. But to delete a problem, you have to get to the root cause. So to eliminate a headache from coming back over and over and over again, you can't just take an aspirin every day, And by the way, a lot of that leads to side effects. And so solving one problem to create three more isn't exactly intelligent. This is what I teach my clients. So how do we delete it? And the answer is we have to get to the root cause of it. And the root cause of stress is the ego thought system, the ego box. It's looking at things from a fear-based perspective. So whenever we're looking at something from a fear-based perspective, we're always worried about what could go wrong. And stress comes from a projection of the mind that something might go wrong. Oh, I'm nervous about this exam I have to take because I might get a bad grade or get something wrong. I'm nervous about this speech I have to give because I might get up there and freak out or say something stupid. I'm worried about injuring myself. I'm worried about getting sick. Or if I am sick, I'm worried about getting sicker or even dying. These are all projections of the mind that something negative is going to happen. And Debbie, we live in a world where we're surrounded by negativity. It's on the news. There are all the things going wrong, the threats, the worries. It's flu season. Oh, get your flu shot, and stock up on medication. And you have to travel. You have to get on an airplane. Well, be careful because you're probably going to get sick. So we have these expectations that things are going to go wrong, and it's that image in the mind, that idea, that vision, that dream, in this case a bad dream, that something's going to happen negatively, and it makes us anxious. It makes us stressed. And I like to remind people that we're never stressed by another person. We're stressed about what we think of that other person. We're never stressed because of a situation. We're stressed because of what we're thinking about that situation. Whether it's a traffic jam that we're sitting in, or a slow computer, it's like, come on, or this person that's down the hall from me who's annoying, or but it's all in the mind. And so when we start to realize that stress is not coming at us, it's not something we have no control over, it's happening to us. Once we realize, no, it's actually coming from us. And that's mindfulness. And that's training of the mind. And this is exactly what Jack learns in the story, Miracle Minded Manager. He's trying to manage it like everybody else in the world. And the consultant that he meets, he says, you're trying to manage something that you should just eliminate from your life. And let me teach you how to do that. And that's what the book teaches. It's what A Course in Miracles teaches us, that we're never upset for the reasons we think we are. That's one of the daily mantras. We're upset because we see something that is not there. That's another one of the daily mantras. So it's all about what we see in the mind. It really boils down to perception, how we see ourselves and how we see the world around us and how we see ourselves in that world and our relationships and everything else, our careers. It's all about what we think in the mind. So you want to change your life, you really want to experience more miracles in life, wake up and examine how you're looking at things. A shift at that level changes everything.
I tell you, it is so true, because we never don't really realize that our thoughts really control us. I think, I forget the exact numbers, but something like, 75% of the thoughts that go through our head every day are negative, and we don't even realize it. And these are just going on all the time. And it's coming to grips with realizing what's going on is I think also like the first step toward doing what you talk about in the book in terms of eliminating the stress. But with that, we're going to take a short break here. We're talking with John Murphy about his book, The Miracle-Minded Manager, and we'll be right back. When is a car not a car? When it shows up in your dreams. Cars are one of the most common dream symbols. If you don't know why you're dreaming about cars or any image, it can leave you confused or scared. But that dream could be a solution to a pressing problem, or an insight into a solution that's been bugging you for years. Go to my website and sign up for a complimentary discovery session, and I'll help you understand why a dream is a terrible thing to waste. Go to thedreamcoach.net for more information.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, and welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach, and we're speaking with business consultant John Murphy. John, as someone who understands dreams, I'm tuned into understanding the difference between our conscious self and our subconscious mind, which is where our dreams lie. This is something that you also touch on. Why is this important to you?
Well, it's very important to distinguish between what we hold in the conscious mind, the present, the will. This is what I will do. The conscious mind, and the subconscious mind, which is a lot like the programming, essentially, that we run on the autopilot, which governs over 95% of our daily lives, according to a lot of research, including the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. The conscious mind, which is capable of processing 40 bits of data, 40 bits of data per second, is nowhere close to the power, if you will, of the subconscious mind, which can process 40 million bits of data per second. So just knowing the difference is step number one. Because it's the conscious mind that says things like, I will change this habit. I will stop doing this. I will start doing that. I will make this New Year's resolution. And if the subconscious mind doesn't believe that, which is often the case, like I will, lose 10 pounds, and the subconscious mind is basically going, yeah, right, you tried that last year. That's where the real problem is. That's why people have, one of the books I wrote is called Habits Die Hard. That's one of the reasons they struggle, is because they're with the will, that tiny conscious mind, if you will, trying to make a change when the subconscious programming is saying that's never going to happen. So we have to get to the programming. It's just like having a virus on your computer. If you don't get the virus out of your computer, it's just not going to perform at an optimal level. It might not even work at all in some cases. So we've got to get into that subconscious mind and delete a lot of the faulty programs we're running on, which translates into limiting beliefs. It translates into phobias and memes and fears that we have that we don't even know where they came from. So knowing the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind is critical for positive habit change. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind too is that the conscious mind is rarely present for very long. I've even seen studies where it's not present for more than 11 seconds at a time, and then the conscious mind's jumping off into all the things I have to do tomorrow or next week, or I'm really looking forward to something a year from now, or I'm still upset about something somebody said to me yesterday or a week ago or 10 years ago. Conscious mind, while it's not present, which is most of the time, who's running our lives? And the answer is the subconscious mind. So we have a couple of things we have to learn to do here. One, train the conscious mind to be more present, to be more in the now. And that's where things like meditation and mindfulness training can be very helpful. But we also have to know that in addition to that, we really have to uncover what's going on in the subconscious mind, the autopilot that we run on, these tendencies and habits that we have that we don't even know exactly where they came from in some cases. And then we have to figure out how to eliminate, delete some of those patterns, those those thought patterns that run most of our lives. And that's where the real power is. It's in letting go of subconscious beliefs that are limiting and disempowering.
And that is so hard. So do you have a technique or two that you use to get into the subconscious and get rid of those self-limiting beliefs?
Yeah, and that's a wonderful question, Debbie, because a lot of people are like, well, how do I know what's going on in my subconscious mind if it's subconscious? It's a good question. Well, I love the old biblical saying, we reap what we sow. In algebra, that's called the transfer function. Y is a function of X. So we look at the Y factors, the outputs, the behaviors. What are we reaping? We start with that. So it's like we're working backwards. What are we reaping? What kind of relationships do you have? How's your financial situation? Are you carrying around a bunch of debt? What are we reaping? How does your body feel and look? And is it lean and fit and clean, or is it not? So what are you reaping? And that helps us then begin to identify what we must be sowing, because what we sow is what we reap. What we reap is what we sow. There's a relationship here. So now we have to figure out, well, what am I sowing? So it could be something physical, like, what are you eating? What are you drinking? And that's important to consider. But in terms of mindfulness, it's all about, what am I thinking? And thoughts are very powerful. They're measurable forms of energy, by the way. So thought can be measured as an energetic frequency, and it translates into a feeling. So what we think translates into a feeling. If we're thinking about losing our jobs, losing something we value, if we're thinking about all the things that can go wrong, if we're horrified by some of the atrocities going on around the planet, if we're one of these news junkies that just can't get enough because it's just it's just drama and there's all these things going on, and I just feel terrible as a result of it. And so if that's what we're feeling, we're not helping the world any by feeling that way, because we're actually making it worse. Collective consciousness is collective feeling. And when there's collective fear, people are collectively afraid, they're actually fueling the fires, so to speak, that are causing havoc on the planet. And that's not just a metaphor. So the idea, and really this is where salvation comes from. It comes from somebody who is not afraid, and is helping people let go of fear and let go a lot of this subconscious worry and doubt and anxiety that seems to be all-encompassing. Let it go. Now, you've probably heard this too. A lot of people are like, oh, I just can't be around that negativity. I just can't be around that person. And so there's a tendency to run from it. And sometimes that makes good sense. But what if you brought light into the dark? What if you, instead of jumping into the misery and the drama and, oh my gosh, isn't that terrible? And what if you were focusing more about solutions than problems? What if you were more optimistic, and there's hope and there's promise and everything happens for a reason, and with compassion and empathy, not insensitivity. Please, I'm not talking about insensitivity. I'm talking about with empathy and compassion and love and forgiveness. You represent the light in the room that people need in this world today more than ever. That's what I'm talking about. That's miracle-minded management right there. Be the light, be the hope, be the promise. Don't just jump into the misery with everyone else and feed and fuel the collective fear and the collective consciousness of negativity.
Yeah, I think that is such a wonderful thought, and it would be, it would revolutionize the world if people would embrace that. But do you find that most people don't or wouldn't want to or are afraid to do it because fear is really overpowering them and they just see themselves as victims?
Yeah, that's exactly. So the competition that we all have isn't out there somewhere. It isn't some external person or thing that we're competing against. Our greatest competition is ourselves. All right, we're getting in our own way, so to speak. It's our own limited beliefs. It's our fear. It's this attachment, this clinging that we have to things that, like fear. Fear's an illusion. It's an illusion of the mind. You know, it's not. It doesn't come at us. It's like stress. It doesn't come at us. It comes from us. All right, we're afraid because we're projecting something into an idea, a vision, a dream into the future that scares us. But it's built on assumption. It's not real. So we're afraid we're never afraid when we're actually present. We're afraid because we think something in the future could harm us, could hurt us. And that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of the idea, of the image. So mindfulness and presence and awareness and awakening is all about bringing the conscious mind into the present and using it as a tool to govern, if you will, the subconscious, the autopilot. It's taking control of the steering wheel, so to speak, and taking yourself off autopilot and consciously steering yourself through life in a mindful, positive, gentle, generous, loving, forgiving way, rather than just repeating the programs that you've been on for perhaps decades. One of those programs, of course, being victim consciousness.
So true. I wanted to shift focus a little bit. You know, the book just does take us through the story of Jack's life through his company and through his personal life. And there's some methods that he uses that I wasn't familiar with and I found interesting and, you know, I thought applied not only to business, but also to our personal life. So I want to ask you about a couple of them. And first one I want to ask you about is, what are the 5 whys?
Yeah, I love that tool. It's a wonderful tool, and it's very simple but very profound, and you can use it at home or at work. It's essentially asking why 5 levels deep on any problem that you might have. And it's because when you get down to that 4th and 5th level of why that the lights really go on. Otherwise, you're still up circling around symptoms. So an example of that would be somebody with recurring headaches. Well, why do you have a recurring headache? That's one level of why. And it's the answer is typically you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, and it's suffering in a way. Okay, so well, why am I not getting enough oxygen to my brain? That's a 2nd level of why, and the answer is inflammation. You've got poor circulation in your neck and inflammation, and the blood's just not flowing as well as it could, which delivers the oxygen to your brain. Oh. Now, at that 2nd level of why, we might just say, well, here, take a pill. Take an ibuprofen or an aspirin or an anti-inflammatory or something like that. And the headache will go away, but only temporarily. That's really no solution. And in fact, in a lot of cases, we're solving one problem and creating 1 or 2 more. Okay, we take this stuff long enough, now maybe our liver starts to fail or something. So that's those side effects, that's not intelligent. So 5 levels of why would take us down to, well, why do you have inflammation in your neck? What's that all about? Poor circulation. In this case, and this is an actual case, the answer is because you're favoring one side as you go through the day. You're favoring one side of your body. Oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. So let's ask the 3rd level. Why am I favoring one side? The answer is your hips are out of alignment. My hips are out of alignment. Yeah, I never would have put that together. A lot of people don't even realize that, they have one leg is a little bit longer than another. Their hips are out of alignment. So now you could ask the 5th level of why and say, well, why are your hips out of alignment? That might say, well, because you were in an accident when you were a kid, or you just been, poor posture sitting in a chair, or, any number of things. But at the 4th or 5th level of why, now we discover that maybe the solution to this problem is not it's going to a pharmacy, it's going to a chiropractor, getting your hips readjusted, getting your spine readjusted. Oh, now the headaches have gone away and they don't keep coming back. So I don't need the aspirin. That's intelligent problem solving. It's creative problem solving. It's rational problem solving. This is what I do as a business consultant. I go into organizations. A headache could be just a metaphor for a lot of phone calls are coming in every day to our customer service department. By the way, you read this in the book, Miracle Minded Manager. We're getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of headaches. Why? And it could be that there's something going on elsewhere in the organization, elsewhere in the body, the hips. Maybe hips is an engineering flaw. And so whatever it is we're selling has got a flaw, and that's why people keep calling in. So we need to get to that level to where we can really solve the problem in a sustainable way, a truly transformational way, and not just some transactional thing.
Okay, what is the third right answer?
Oh, that's great. I love that one too. So the third, we get into this duality a lot. That's the ego thought system too. Option A, option B, right, wrong, good, bad. And we debate over, Republican, Democrat. We debate over this or that. And we often never look, really collectively explore. And the third right answer. Okay. And by the way, when I do this with my clients, I'll say, okay, we've got option A here. We've done all the reasons why we should do it, all the reasons why we shouldn't. We've got option B here, all the reasons why we should, all the reasons why we shouldn't. Okay, let's put both options aside and come up with option C. People look at me like, what? C? What's wrong with? And they're debating A and B, A and B, A and B. Now, coming up with option C, we do, by the way, there's always an option C. We just have to explore, open up our minds, ask why in other ways. And then all of a sudden we get option C. And I often kid about this, but guess what? Now we've got option A, B, and C. Guess what option we typically go with? And the answer is D. Because now we've taken the lid off. Now we're getting creative. And so a lot of times by just letting go of A and B and the duality and the conflict and the debate and all that, letting go of that and exploring C, it leads us to D, which might be a hybrid of all three of them, or even E. All of a sudden now we start seeing solutions we never imagined before. It's like daydreaming, it's conscious dreaming as a team to really explore amazing answers. And when you think about the advancements we have in technology today, okay, I give this example in one of my workshops. So imagine 10 years ago, you're sitting on your couch and you want to watch a movie on television that's not on television. What's your process? Well, you get off the couch, you go find your car keys, you get in the car, you get on your bicycle, whatever, you walk down the street, you find a Blockbuster video, you wander through the shelves, you find the movie, if it's there, maybe you pick another one. You stand in line, you pay the bill, you can get home, you load up a machine with this movie, you hope it works, you sit back down on the couch. And I say to people, could we map that process? Could we do a process map? The answer is, of course, yes. Could we time it, how long it takes? The answer is, of course, yes. Could we count how many steps are in that process? Of course. And guess what? None of those steps, none of that time is what's called value added. It's all waste. It's just all a form of muda. They call it muda in Japan. It's all a form of waste. Because all you really want to do, Debbie, is watch the movie. You're sitting on the couch, you want to watch this movie. And I could say, when? Well, ideally right now. Okay, without leaving the couch. Guess what we can do today? Exactly that. We've got Netflix, we've got on-demand options, we've got all kinds of stuff. Why do we have that today? And the answer is because of that third right answer.
Yes. Well, John, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, the best place to go is my website, johnjmurphy.org. So www.johnjmurphy.org. And from there, you can find my Twitter account, which is Sage Leader. You can find my YouTube channel. I've got a couple hundred free videos, short clips, self-help type today. And I urge people to connect with me. I love connecting with people around the world and doing what I can to help.
Oh, well, thank you, John. Thank you for being on Dream Power Radio today. We've been speaking with Master Management Consultant John Murphy. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.